I guess I should start with a little background. My name is Jake, and I've been married to Emily for 6 years now. We met in college and hit it off instantly. I was drawn to her fiery personality and her love for adventure. She would say she loved long drives, the wind in her hair, and the thrill of the open road. We shared countless road trips, laughing and singing to our playlists. Life was good, or so I thought. But lately, there were signs, subtle at first, but they began to pile up. Emily would often come home late from work, citing a last-minute meeting or an emergency with one of her clients. I tried to be understanding, but I couldn't shake this nagging feeling in the back of my mind. The late nights turned into long weekends, where I'd find her glued to her phone rather than engaging with me. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers, the kind that left me feeling more like a stranger than a husband. I vividly remember one Sunday afternoon. I had planned a lovely dinner for the two of us, hoping to rekindle our connection. I was excited, but when I went to the kitchen to prepare, I noticed her phone buzzing incessantly. Curiosity got the better of me and I picked it up. I mean, we're married, right? But when I glanced at the screen, I saw a message from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you later, babe." It felt like ice water was poured into my veins. I put the phone back and tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was someone from work, but the way "babe" was used didn't sit right with me. That evening, I tried to brush it off, convincing myself I was being paranoid. Emily came home a bit tipsy from a work event and was in a bubbly mood, but I couldn't help but feel distant. Then came that fateful Tuesday when I decided to dig a little deeper. I installed a GPS tracking app on her phone. Not because I didn't trust her, okay? Maybe it was because I didn't trust her. I needed to know where she was going during those late nights. The next day, while I was at work, I checked the app to see if she really was at the office late. To my shock, the log showed that she never left the driveway. My heart raced as I realized that my wife was home, but she wasn't alone. I pushed myself to think rationally. Maybe she was just being forgetful. I convinced myself that I'd wait until the weekend to bring it up. But those days were filled with dread. The following Saturday, I found myself pacing around the living room, trying to gather the courage to confront her. I had this sick feeling in my stomach, the kind that only grows when you know you're about to face a truth you don't want to accept. That evening, as she relaxed on the couch scrolling through her phone, I finally blurted out, "Emily, do you want to talk about the late nights, the phone calls?" She looked up, surprise etched on her face. "Jake, what are you talking about? You're being ridiculous." Her dismissive tone did nothing to quell my rising anger. I pressed on, "I saw the messages. I know you've been lying to me." Her reaction was swift and defensive. "You're being paranoid. I'm at work. You're the one making this a bigger deal than it is." I could see the irritation and annoyance clouding her expression. It felt like I was talking to a stranger rather than the woman I loved. It was a surreal experience. I felt like I was in a fog, my emotions warring against each other. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand the truth, but I also felt this wave of sadness wash over me. How could she deny it? How could she lie so easily? As I looked into her eyes, filled with defiance, I realized she wasn't going to give me the answers I was looking for. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I spent hours replaying the confrontation in my mind, feeling the betrayal seep deeper into my heart. I went from anger to disbelief, and then to a profound sense of sadness. I felt like my life was unraveling before my eyes. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything. I had to figure out what to do next. Should I confront her again, gather more evidence, or should I just cut my losses and leave? The emotional turmoil was exhausting, wearing me down. But then a thought struck me. If Emily was cheating, I had to know with whom. I had to gather proof, not just for my own peace of mind, but for the confrontation that was surely coming. I started devising a plan, one that would reveal the truth and allow me to take control of a situation that had made me feel powerless. I decided to find out exactly what Emily was hiding and how deep this betrayal really went. I was determined to uncover the truth, even if it hurt more than I could imagine. I needed to know who was taking my wife away from me, one long drive at a time. That weekend, I put my plan into motion. I began following her, pretending to go for a drive myself. Each time she left the house, I'd slip into my car and tail her, heart racing with a mix of dread and an odd sense of thrill. Each time I saw her pull away, I felt a surge of adrenaline, knowing I was on the hunt for the truth. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a chaotic journey that would lead to a confrontation I never thought I'd have to face. Each drive brought me closer to unraveling the web of lies she had spun. I just had to stay one step ahead. The first time I followed Emily, I felt like I was in a bizarre movie. I parked a few blocks away from our house, trying to keep my cool. Watching her leave in our SUV, I felt a mix of determination and anxiety. My heart raced as I pulled out behind her. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and craving simultaneously. She drove a familiar route heading toward the downtown area, a place we frequented together. My mind was racing with questions. Where was she going? Was she meeting someone? I was on the verge of losing my grip on reality. As I trailed her, I felt like a detective in a cheap thriller movie, my palms sweaty on the steering wheel. She parked in the lot of a trendy cafe that I recognized. I parked a safe distance away and watched as she hopped out of the car and strolled inside, adjusting her hair and laughing as she greeted someone. I squinted, trying to get a better view of who she was meeting. My pulse quickened when I saw him. It was Mark, a guy from her office that I didn't think much of until now. Tall, with dark hair and a charming smile, he had always struck me as a bit too friendly with her. In my gut, I felt that old feeling of jealousy surge. I had seen them together at company functions, and they'd always seemed a little too close for comfort. But seeing them together now, that was a whole different ballgame. I couldn't hear their conversation from my spot, but I watched as they leaned in close, sharing laughter like they were in on a private joke. A pit formed in my stomach, and I felt the tears welling up in my eyes but fought them back. I couldn't break down, not now. I needed to see how this played out. 15 minutes passed, and I made a mental note of everything I was witnessing. Emily was leaning in, flirting in a way I hadn't seen in months. I felt a rush of anger and betrayal rise inside me. How could she do this? How could she betray the love we built? The thought sent a chill through me. I watched as they finished their drinks and headed outside. I quickly ducked down in my seat, praying she wouldn't see me. They walked toward his car, and my heart sank when I saw him open the door for her. Was she getting in? A part of me screamed to stop this madness, to confront her, to demand she explain herself right then and there. But I fought the urge. I needed to gather more evidence. Instead, I turned the car around and drove a few blocks, parked, and waited. After about 20 minutes, I saw Emily's SUV pull out of the cafe lot. I followed her once more, heart pounding. This time, she didn't head back home. Instead, she drove toward a residential area that was unfamiliar to me. All the while, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was heading deeper into an abyss I never wanted to enter. Eventually, she parked in front of a house that I didn't recognize. It had a fresh coat of paint, and the lawn was meticulously kept. I parked a safe distance away and watched, my heart racing as she got out and walked to the front door. That's when it hit me, this was not just a casual meeting. She was hiding something monumental. I watched her ring the doorbell, and a moment later the door swung open. The man who answered was tall, muscular, with shaggy hair and a charming smile that reminded me of how Emily used to look at me. The sight of them together sent a wave of nausea through me. They embraced, a warm hug that lingered too long. My hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. I had to know what was happening inside that house. My instincts kicked in. I thought about all the times I had trusted her, the late nights, the excuses. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful. I got out of my car and crept toward the house, trying to stay out of sight. I could hear muffled voices through the windows, and I strained to make out what they were saying. Heart racing, I pressed my ear against the wall, feeling like a cliché character in a bad drama. "Why didn't you text me?" Emily's voice came through clearly, laced with a hint of frustration. "I was busy, babe. I had to finish some things at the gym," he replied, and my stomach turned at the endearment. "Yeah, but I miss you," she said, her voice softening. "We can't keep doing this if you can't make time for me." Every word felt like a dagger to my heart. They were in a full-blown affair, and she was actually using babe with him, just like she had done in those texts I saw. I felt a surge of rage mixed with despair and betrayal. How could the love of my life do this to me? I stepped back, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of their silhouettes through the window. They were close, intimate. Emily leaned in and he kissed her, a long kiss that felt like it lasted an eternity. I stumbled back, the realization hitting me like a freight train. This was real. This was my life crumbling before my eyes. I quickly retreated to my car, needing to escape the heartache. I drove aimlessly for a while, tears streaming down my face. I felt like a ghost in my own life, haunted by visions of betrayal and lies. The world outside blurred as I struggled to keep my emotions in check. I parked in a secluded area, trying to catch my breath. My mind was racing. I needed to gather my thoughts and figure out my next move. This wasn't just a one-time affair. It felt like a full-blown relationship. Emily had betrayed me in the worst way, and I couldn't understand how she could be so cruel. After hours of driving and thinking, I finally pulled myself together enough to head home. I had to confront her, and I needed a plan. I wasn't just going to let her walk away from this unscathed. No, if she thought she could play me for a fool, she had another thing coming. I was going to make her see the consequences of her actions. When I finally walked through the door, I felt a heaviness in my chest. Would she be waiting for me with that innocent smile, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to erupt? I steeled myself. I couldn't let her charm and manipulation derail me again. It was time to take control of my life, even if it meant facing the woman I had once loved. I was ready to confront the truth, no matter how painful it would be. As I stepped through the front door, the familiar scent of our home greeted me, but it felt foreign now. Everything seemed tinged with betrayal, from the photos on the walls to the soft glow of the living room lights. Emily was sprawled on the couch, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, looking up with a bright smile that instantly made my stomach churn. "Hey honey, you're home early," she chirped, her voice slightly too cheerful for my liking. "Yeah, well, I had some things to take care of," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral, though I could feel the anger simmering just beneath the surface. She tilted her head, her brow furrowing slightly. "Everything okay?" I took a deep breath, locking eyes with her. "Not really. We need to talk." The smile faded from her face, replaced by a look of concern that felt all too rehearsed. "About what?" "About the late nights and the texts, Emily. About you and Mark." I kept my voice steady, but inside my heart was pounding. I could see the color drain from her face, and for a brief moment I thought she might actually panic. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, the bravado slipping away. She sat up straight, her phone forgotten in her lap. "You're being ridiculous, Jake. You're jumping to conclusions." "Am I?" I shot back, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Because I followed you today. I saw you with him at that cafe and then at his house." Her eyes widened, and I could see the gears turning in her mind as she scrambled for a plausible excuse. I was just helping him with some work stuff. He's stressed. You know how hard things can get at the office. Do you think I'm that stupid?" I snapped, my voice rising. "You were all over him, Emily. Don't lie to me." I felt the weight of my own anger as it spilled out, a mixture of betrayal and hurt. "I was all over him," she retorted, her voice rising to match mine. "You don't understand. It was just a friendly thing. You know how close we are as coworkers." "Close? Is that what you call it?" I questioned, frustration boiling over. "You don't call other guys babe and meet them outside our marriage just for work." The tension in the room thickened, and I could see her backtracking, realizing she had no way out. "Jake, please, you're being dramatic. I love you. This isn't what it looks like, I promise." But I wasn't buying it. I had seen enough. "You need to stop lying to me. I deserve honesty, and right now you're giving me nothing but excuses." My body felt tense, and I could barely contain the anger coursing through me. Emily's expression shifted from panic to defiance. "Fine, you want the truth. Maybe I do love him. Maybe I'm tired of being in a marriage that feels more like a prison than a partnership." The admission hung in the air like a guillotine. "Is that really how you feel?" I asked, my voice shaky. "All those years together, and you throw it away for someone else?" The betrayal cut deep, and I could feel the hurt blossom into something darker. "Jake, don't act like you're the perfect husband. You've been distant. You barely pay attention to me." I felt lonely. The accusation hit like a slap across the face. It made my blood boil, but there was a hint of truth in her words. I know I have work commitments, but I've always prioritized you. I've always tried. My voice cracked and I struggled to maintain my composure. But this isn't just about work. You were with him. You chose him. She opened her mouth to protest, but the words caught in her throat. I could see the realization washing over her. The game was up. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she finally said, her voice quieter, almost defeated. We were just connecting on a level that I didn't feel with you anymore. Connecting? I echoed in disbelief. You're telling me that you're connecting with him while you're married to me. Where does that leave us, Emily? Her defenses crumbled and I watched as the mask of confidence slipped away. I don't know, Jake, I really don't. I didn't want it to escalate, but it did. I felt so lost in our marriage, and he made me feel alive again. Alive? I scoffed. So you traded our years together for a few fleeting moments of excitement. You think that's how love works? She didn't respond, her gaze dropping to the floor. In that moment, the weight of our shattered reality hung heavily in the air. I felt a mix of anger and sadness coursing through me. I wanted to lash out, to scream, but instead, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Do you even care about what this does to me? I asked, my voice breaking. What about the life we built together, the plans we had? I do care, Jake, I really do. She reached for my hand, but I jerked away, unable to accept any more of her touch. I don't know what I want anymore. Maybe you should figure that out, I said coldly. Because I'm not going to stand by and be your backup plan while you sort through your feelings for him. The silence that followed was deafening. We both knew I was right. What do you want? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Are you going to kick me out? Are you going to end this? I don't know yet, I admitted, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. But you can't just expect me to forgive and forget. This is a betrayal that runs deep, Emily. You broke my trust. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I couldn't afford to, not after everything that had just unfolded. The disappointment and heartache mingled, amplifying the anger that simmered beneath the surface. Maybe you should go stay at your parents' for a while, I suggested. You need space to think about what you really want. I need space too. She nodded, the fight leaving her as she stood up. I'll pack a bag, she said quietly, her voice hollow. As she walked away, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. It was a surreal moment, saying goodbye to the woman I thought I knew. I stood there, feeling lost in a world that had turned upside down, wondering how the woman I loved could become a stranger right before my eyes. The moments that followed were a blur. I heard her moving around the house, packing her things, but it felt distant. My mind was racing, grappling with the reality of what had just happened. I had confronted the woman I loved, only to discover that she had chosen another man over me. I sat down on the couch, my heart heavy with grief. My emotions were a storm swirling between anger, sadness, and a profound sense of betrayal. I could feel the weight of the situation sinking in. The love I had poured into our marriage felt like it had been thrown away, and I was left with the remnants of a shattered dream. When she finally walked back into the living room, her bags in hand, I felt a pang of something that resembled sympathy mixed with anger. I'll be at my parents', she said softly, her voice trembling. Take care of yourself, Emily, I replied, but the words felt hollow. I couldn't bring myself to say anything more. As she stepped out the door, I felt a piece of my heart break. I closed my eyes, feeling the tears spill over. This was my life now, a painful reminder of what once was and what had been irrevocably lost. I was left standing in the quiet of our home, feeling more alone than I ever had before. The road ahead felt uncertain, and I knew the next steps would be crucial. I couldn't allow myself to be a victim of her betrayal. I needed to reclaim my life and find a way to heal, even if it meant facing the pain head-on. But for now, I allowed myself to feel the grief and anger, knowing that in the coming days, I would have to make decisions that would change everything. The journey of betrayal had just begun, and I was determined to see it through, even if it meant confronting the broken pieces of my heart. The next few days felt like a blur of emotions. I had gone from shock to anger and back to a disorienting kind of sadness. Emily had moved out, and the silence in our home was deafening. Every corner of the house held memories, and the absence felt like a gaping wound I couldn't ignore. I tried to fill the void with distractions, working late hours, hitting the gym, and even binge-watching shows I once enjoyed. But no matter how I tried to numb the pain, it always crept back in. I found myself going over the same moments in my mind, replaying our arguments, the smiles we once shared, and the life we had built together. It was a mental loop I couldn't escape. I felt betrayed not just by her infidelity, but also by the memories that now felt tainted. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but all I could do was sit in the dark and think. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I decided to take a drive. I had always found solace in the open road, and as I drove, I tried to clear my mind. But my thoughts kept returning to Emily and Mark. What were they doing? Were they laughing about me? My gut twisted at the thought. I found myself parked outside the cafe where I had seen Emily and Mark together. The familiar spot brought back a flood of memories, laughter, coffee dates, and stolen kisses. But now it felt like a battleground, a reminder of everything I had lost. I sat there for a while, watching the world go by until I spotted them. I felt my heart drop as I saw them pull into the parking lot, Mark's arm casually draped over Emily's shoulders as they walked in together. I couldn't believe it. She moved on so quickly. Anger surged through me, and without thinking, I got out of my car and followed them inside. It was a small cafe, and I found a spot at the back, hidden from view. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched them interact. They were comfortable, laughing and joking as if they hadn't a care in the world. I felt jealousy twist like a knife in my gut. Emily looked radiant, her laughter bright and carefree, and for a brief moment I felt a pang of longing. But the anger quickly outweighed the sadness. I couldn't believe she could so easily forget the life we had together. I was the one who had been left to pick up the pieces, yet here she was, enjoying life with someone who had slid into my place. As I sat there, I made a decision. I couldn't just remain a passive observer in this mess. I had to confront her again. I would not let her get away with this. I would show her the consequences of her actions, not with physical retaliation, but by reclaiming my own power. I waited until they finished their drinks, and as they walked out of the cafe, I followed them into the parking lot. My heart raced. This confrontation would be different. I wouldn't be the hurt husband. I would be the man taking control of his life. Emily. I called out, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. She turned, surprise washing over her face. Mark paused, looking between us with a guarded expression. Jake. Emily's voice faltered, and I could see her body tense up. What a coincidence, I said, my voice calm but firm. Looks like you've moved on pretty quickly. What are you doing here? She asked, panic flickering in her eyes. I came to remind you what you're throwing away, I shot back, taking a step closer. You think you can just walk away from our life together and start fresh with him? Mark stepped forward, trying to assert himself. Hey man, this isn't really your business, just let her be. Actually, it is my business, I said, turning my gaze to him. You're the one trying to take my place. Emily's eyes widened and she looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. Jake, please, can we not do this here? No, we need to do this. You need to understand what you're losing. I took a deep breath, my pulse quickening. You think this is all fun and games? That you can have your little adventure and come back to your life like nothing happened? She opened her mouth to respond, but I pressed on. You don't get to enjoy a fresh start while I'm left dealing with the wreckage of our marriage. You have to face the consequences of your actions. Mark stepped in again, anger flaring in his eyes. This is between Emily and me. You need to back off, man. But I wasn't done. No, it's really not that simple. You have no idea how much she's hurt me, how much trust she's shattered. I didn't expect perfection, but I at least expected honesty. You think she's going to give you that? Emily looked at me, her face a mix of anger and desperation. Jake, stop. You don't know what you're talking about. No, I think I do. You're in this whirlwind of passion, but when reality hits, you'll realize it will never be the same. I may be hurt, but I'm also moving on. You might think you're happy now, but when the dust settles, you'll see what you've thrown away. In that moment, I saw the tension in her face shift. There was fear hidden beneath her bravado, and for the first time I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she would realize the gravity of her choices. Mark, however, wasn't backing down. You need to leave, man. You're just making this worse. I shot him a glare. You don't know what you're getting into. You think you can just waltz in and take my place. You're going to regret it when she realizes she's made a mistake." Emily's expression softened, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Jake, please. I didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened." "Yeah, well, it happened because you let it. You made the choice to betray me, and now you need to own it," I said, my voice firm. I turned to Mark, my anger boiling inside me. "And you need to back off. This isn't just some game to me. This is my life." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving them standing there. I felt a mix of satisfaction and regret. I wasn't out for revenge. I was fighting for my dignity. I had reclaimed my voice, and I wouldn't let her treat my life like a casual pastime. As I drove away, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had confronted her, and though I didn't know what the future held, I felt a sense of empowerment. I wouldn't let Emily's choices define me, and I wouldn't let her betrayal crush my spirit. Over the next few days, I focused on myself. I started hitting the gym harder, spending time with friends, and even taking on new projects at work. I was determined to rebuild my life, even if it meant doing it without Emily. But deep down, I knew the aftermath of this confrontation would ripple through both our lives. I had taken a step towards healing, but I also knew that the journey was far from over. The pain of betrayal would linger, but I was committed to moving forward, no matter how difficult it would be. In that moment, I understood that reclaiming my life meant not only confronting Emily, but also confronting the hurt I felt. I wasn't just fighting for the relationship we once had. I was fighting for my future, and that was something I was determined to win. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the initial shock of Emily's betrayal faded, replaced with a sense of grim determination. I was no longer the victim in my own story. I was the author, ready to rewrite the narrative. While the hurt was still fresh, I refused to let it consume me. Instead, I channeled my energy into self-improvement and self-reflection, seeking to understand how I had arrived at this point in my life. I focused on my work, taking on new projects and pushing myself past my limits. My boss noticed the change in my dedication, and I soon found myself leading a crucial initiative that could have a significant impact on my career. It felt good to reclaim my professional identity, especially when it had been overshadowed by my personal struggles. I poured my energy into my work, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of purpose. But of course, there were moments when the past haunted me. I'd see Emily's name pop up on my phone, and my heart would race, caught between the desire to reach out and the logical part of me that knew I needed to maintain distance. I resisted the urge to check social media for updates on her new relationship with Mark. I knew it would only hurt me further. I had to prioritize my mental health. One Friday evening, I decided to go out with friends to a local bar. I figured a change of scenery would help distract me. My best friend, Tom, was eager to lift my spirits. "You need to get out, man. Let's have some fun," he insisted, clapping me on the back. We settled into a booth, beers in hand, and as the night wore on, I allowed myself to relax. I laughed, chatted with friends, and even flirted with a few women. For the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of joy. I was reclaiming my life, and it felt liberating. But just as I was starting to enjoy myself, I saw her. Emily walked in with Mark, looking radiant and carefree. My heart dropped into my stomach, and for a moment the world around me fell silent. Time stood still as I watched her laugh, her smile wide as she leaned into Mark. It was like a punch to the gut. Tom noticed my sudden change in demeanor. "Jake, you good?" asked, his brow furrowing. "Yeah, just give me a second," I managed, my voice shaky. I didn't want to show weakness, but I felt my resolve crumbling. I turned my gaze back to them, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. I wanted to scream, to confront her again, but I also knew I needed to stay strong. Mark leaned closer, whispering something into Emily's ear that made her laugh. The sound pierced through the noise of the bar, and I felt a scalding heat rise within me. I had to get out of there. I stood up abruptly, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "Let's go," I said to Tom, who looked surprised but followed my lead. As we stepped outside into the cool night air, I breathed in deeply, trying to steady my racing heart. "Dude, you okay?" Tom asked, concern etched on his face. "Yeah, just saw Emily," I replied, my voice tight. "It hurt more than I thought it would." "Want to talk about it?" I hesitated, feeling vulnerable. I thought I was over it, but seeing her with him just brought everything flooding back. It's like I'm stuck in this loop I can't escape. Tom nodded empathetically. It's tough, man. Give yourself time. You're doing better than you think. Just focus on moving forward. His words grounded me. I knew I had to keep pushing through the pain. The road ahead was bound to be filled with ups and downs, but I was determined to navigate it. The following week, I decided to take a spontaneous weekend trip to clear my head. I packed my bags and drove to a cabin in the mountains, hoping to immerse myself in nature and find some solace. Being away from the city felt refreshing, and as I settled into the quiet of the woods, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I spent my days hiking, soaking in the beauty of my surroundings, and my nights stargazing by the fire. It was therapeutic to disconnect from the chaos and reflect on my life. I thought about my marriage, the love we once shared, and the betrayal that shattered it all. I allowed myself to grieve the relationship I had lost while also acknowledging that I was capable of finding happiness again. But as I sat by the fire one evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed closure. I had been avoiding the necessary confrontation with Emily, the chance to truly express how her actions had impacted me. I realized that I needed to address this once and for all, not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. Returning home, I made the call. I hadn't spoken to Emily since that confrontational day outside the cafe, but I found myself dialing her number, my heart pounding. When she answered, I could hear the surprise in her voice. "Jake, is everything okay? I need to talk, Emily," I said, trying to keep my emotions in check. "About what?" She sounded hesitant, but I pressed on. "About us, about what happened." "Okay," she replied quietly. "Where do you want to meet?" I suggested a local park, a neutral ground. The next day I found myself pacing on the grass, the air thick with anticipation. I didn't know what to expect, but I felt a mixture of apprehension and determination. When Emily arrived, her expression was unreadable. We exchanged pleasantries, but the tension between us was palpable. I gestured to a bench and we sat down, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I started, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "About what happened about us." "Me too," she replied, looking down at her hands. "I've been trying to figure everything out. I want you to know that what you did hurt me in ways I can't even describe." I continued, my heart racing. "I trusted you and you broke that trust. You broke my heart." "I know," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I was lost and I got swept up in something that felt good in the moment. But it wasn't just a moment for me," I said firmly. "I lost my partner, my best friend. I watched you choose someone else over the life we built together." Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't tell you how sorry I am, Jake. I messed up. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." The sincerity in her voice struck me. "And that's the thing, I can't go back to how things were. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'm trying to heal." "I understand if you can't," she said softly, "but I hope you know that I never wanted to hurt you. I've realized I took everything for granted." As we spoke, I began to feel a sense of relief. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about understanding and closure. "I need time, Emily. I need to focus on myself and my own happiness. I can't keep holding on to the past." "I get it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to be happy, even if it's without me." We sat in silence, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. Finally, I stood up, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. "I think this is goodbye then. I wish you well." As I walked away, I felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. I had faced Emily one last time, confronted my feelings, and expressed my pain. It was a necessary step in my healing process, and though the future felt uncertain, I was ready to embrace it. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to reclaim my life. I had taken the first step toward healing, and I knew that I could emerge from this experience stronger than ever. I was no longer defined by Emily's betrayal. I was taking control of my own destiny, ready to forge a new path. In the weeks following my conversation with Emily, I committed myself to moving forward. I dove deeper into work, strengthening relationships with my colleagues and proving to myself that I could thrive on my own. I poured my energy into self-care, experimenting with new hobbies, and even reuniting with old friends who had faded into the background during my marriage. It felt good to rediscover parts of myself that had been neglected. I focused on fitness, hitting the gym regularly and pushing myself beyond my limits. I joined a local hiking group, exploring trails I'd never known existed. Nature became my therapy, offering clarity and peace in an otherwise chaotic time. Each step I took in the mountains was a step away from the pain Emily had caused and toward a new beginning. One evening, while sitting on my porch, I found myself reflecting on the journey I'd taken. My heartache had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, but it had also ignited a spark of resilience within me. I realized that despite the hurt, I was learning to rebuild and redefine my life on my own terms. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was becoming the architect of my own happiness. Then one evening, Tom invited me to a friend's engagement party. At first, I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to immerse myself in a social setting filled with couples. But then I thought about how far I had come and decided to go. I dressed sharply, wanting to embrace the night with confidence. As I arrived at the venue, I was met with the warmth of familiar faces. The atmosphere was buzzing, filled with laughter, music, and celebrations. I found Tom at the bar and joined him, feeling the nerves melt away as we chatted with friends. It was refreshing to be surrounded by positivity and love without feeling pressured to engage in any romantic entanglements. As the night wore on, I noticed a woman across the room. Her laughter was infectious, her energy captivating. She was chatting easily with others, and I felt an inexplicable pull to her. After a few drinks and some encouragement from Tom, I mustered the courage to approach her. "Hi there," I said, offering a warm smile. "Hey," she replied, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I'm Mia." "Jake," I introduced myself, feeling a sense of ease wash over me. We began chatting, and I found myself genuinely laughing and enjoying the conversation. She was smart, witty, and refreshingly honest. As we spoke about everything from travel to our favorite movies, I felt a spark that I hadn't experienced in a long time. For the first time since my world had shattered, I didn't feel weighed down by the past. I realized that while my heart still bore the scars of betrayal, it was also capable of opening up again. As the evening progressed, we exchanged numbers, and I found myself looking forward to the possibility of exploring this new connection. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Mia and I began dating, and with each date, I felt more like my true self. We explored new restaurants, attended concerts, and even took spontaneous road trips. I learned to enjoy life again, embracing the joy of companionship without the shadows of my past looming over me. With Mia, things felt different. There was no pressure to rush into anything. Instead, we took our time, building a friendship that blossomed into something deeper. I shared my story with her, the pain, the betrayal, and how it had shaped me into the person I was becoming. She listened not with pity but with understanding and respect. As the months passed, I found myself reflecting on my journey. I had faced the darkest days of my life, confronted the pain of betrayal, and emerged stronger. I had learned invaluable lessons about trust, love, and the importance of taking care of myself. One evening, as Mia and I sat on the porch of her apartment, watching the sunset, I realized I was truly happy. I had found a new love, but more importantly, I had rediscovered love for myself. I was no longer defined by Emily's betrayal. I was a man who had fought through the storm and come out on the other side. In that moment, I felt grateful for the experiences that had led me here, even the painful ones. They had taught me resilience, self-worth, and the importance of surrounding myself with positive influences. I knew that life would continue to throw challenges my way, but for the first time in a long while, I felt equipped to handle whatever came next. As I turned to Mia, I saw a future filled with possibilities. I was ready to embrace it, knowing that I had the strength to navigate whatever life threw my way. I had learned to love again, not just another person but myself, and that made all the difference. Life was beautiful, and I was finally ready to live it to the fullest.